Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate on DraftKings and Yahoo for Tuesday, June the 11th. We do have a full 15-game slate for Tuesday, so there's a lot to talk about, a lot of pitchers to go over. We will start off with the pitcher-player pool, and I'll work my way down, talk about all the options that I'm going to be considering today. We'll look at some hitters that I like after we get through pitching. We'll go over some stacks that I'll be going to. Then towards the end of the video, we'll look at some BVP plays as well. Just before we do get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. So starting off at the top of the pitcher-player pool, we got Chris Paddack as the most expensive option. On DraftKings, he is $10,600. If we go over to Yahoo, Chris Paddack is also the most expensive pitcher over here at $54. And I do like Paddack here. I like this matchup a lot for him. Pitching against the Giants in Oracle Park. Great pitcher's park. It is a Giants team that does have some strikeouts in its lineup. But the only reason I'm not going to include Paddack in the core today is because I think Patrick Corbin is a little bit better option and does have more upside than Paddack in my opinion. I really like Corbin's matchup against the White Sox. This is a White Sox team that does strike out a lot versus left-handed pitching. Plenty of Ks in this lineup, especially when you get towards the bottom. And even the guys at the top of the lineup are much better, like the two switch hitters, Luis Garcia and Yoan Moncada. Both of them are better from their left side. Both of them are better facing right-handed pitching. So I really like Corbin here. He's the guy that I want to pay up for at 10-3. There are a lot of cheap pitchers available today that I think you can go to that make it pretty viable to pay up at pitching. Whether you want to go to Paddack or Corbin, or even James Paxton against the Mets. I think James Paxton's actually in a pretty good spot here against a Mets team that really doesn't have that great of a lineup, does have a lot of strikeouts in its lineup versus left-handed pitching, especially at the bottom with like Ahmed Rosario, Carlos Gomez, Echeverria, Todd Frazier, Dominic Smith. If he's in the lineup versus a lefty, will strike out a ton. So I like Paxton a lot, but I think I would rank the stud pitchers Corbin number 1, probably Paxton number 2, Paddack number 3, and then Castillo number 4. And then like some of these 9K guys I don't have much interest in, like Trevor Bauer's 9,900, but that matchup with the Reds I'm not a big fan of. I would just rather play Paxton for 200 more or play Corbin for 400 more. Like if Bauer was maybe $1,000 cheaper, I'd have some interest, but at 9,900, I feel like I can probably look elsewhere. Kind of the same can be said for all the other 9K plays like Maeda, Freddie Peralta, Brad Peacock. Just don't really like their matchups and their price tags as well. So let's talk about some of these value plays. I don't really like a ton of the mid-tier options. Like I expect a lot of my builds today are going to be with like stars and scrubs, like an expensive pitcher and then a really cheap pitcher. Like a lot of these 8K, 7K plays, I feel like I can kind of avoid today. If I had to pick a couple, I'd probably go like Spencer Turnbull against the Royals. He definitely stands out at 8,600, even though I don't really like his price tag that much. He at least has a decent matchup. Then you got like these cheap 7K plays that I think actually have some good upside, like Jacob Junis against the Tigers. Really good strikeout matchup there. John Means against the Blue Jays, good matchup there. On the other side of that game, Trent Thornton against the Orioles, I think makes a lot of sense at 7K. And then once you get under 7K, you got some good value with like Martin Perez. I really like at home against the Mariners. A Mariners team that strikes out a lot versus left-handed pitching. I think Martin Perez is in a really good spot. Dakota Hudson is not that good of a pitcher, but he's also 6,200 and he's facing the Marlins in Marlins Park. So he is definitely in play as a value option if you want to consider him. But like I mentioned, Martin Perez I really like here against a Mariners team that does strike out a lot versus left-handed pitching. Pretty sure their strikeout rate versus lefties is towards the top of the league. So this is a great spot for Perez. He did pitch earlier this year against the Mariners and did really well. Pitched 6 2/3 innings, allowed 5 hits, 1 run, got 7 strikeouts, had 25 DraftKings points the last time he faced the Mariners. The only concern here is that Perez has not been pitching as good lately. Like his pitching's been a little bit poor lately. Some of that has been due to tough matchups though, like against the Rays, a really good hitting team. Even the Indians have been hitting the ball better as of late. I think Perez is not a gas can like he used to be. He's definitely fixed some things. His velocity's up. His pitches have more movement as well. So I actually like him a lot here, especially because he's so cheap on DraftKings at 6,700. I think he makes a lot of sense as a value play, as a value pitcher today. Over on Yahoo, I do like going to Corbin as my most expensive pitcher, but I'm not going to be going to Martin Perez. Martin Perez is at $39. I think you can still play him, but there are some guys for cheaper that have just as much upside as Perez. For example, Trent Thornton, I think, against the Orioles has plenty of upside, could potentially outscore Perez, and he's also $5 cheaper. If we go to DraftKings pricing, Trent Thornton's actually more expensive than Perez, so I think I would just rather play Perez. But on Yahoo, where Thornton's $5 cheaper than Martin Perez, I think Thornton is a pretty good value at just $34. I like going Corbin, Thornton on Yahoo as my two pitchers. And then looking at some hitters that we can target today, I want to start off at third base. I love paying up here for Nolan Arenado. He's 5,600 at home in Coors versus a lefty, which is pretty much one of the biggest locks in MLB DFS. Anytime Arenado is at home versus a lefty, this guy is always in play, especially facing a lefty like Jose Quintana, who I don't think is really that good of a pitcher. Definitely a pitcher that you can stack against, especially when he's in Coors Field. 5.8 implied run total for the Rockies, which isn't as high as I thought it would be, especially because the Cubs have a higher total than them. I think the Rockies do make for a great stack, especially the righties, Arenado and Story, Ian Desmond. Brendan Rodgers I'm not a fan of, but Arenado, Story, Desmond I think are really good plays. If Mark Reynolds cracks the lineup, he's a guy you could look to. The lefties in the lineup are not easy outs either. Like Charlie Blackmon can hit lefties. David Dahl can hit lefties. Even though I prefer Blackmon and Dahl when they're facing a right-handed pitcher, they're still at least an option versus lefties. But I do prefer the righties here, Story and Arenado, especially Nolan Arenado. This dude just matches left-handed pitching, especially when he's at home. Throughout his career, I think he has like a 350, 370 WOBA at home versus lefties. Great spot for Arenado. Quintana gives up a lot of hard contact to righties, so I think things set up really well here for Arenado at 5,600. Definitely going to be stacking the Rockies versus Quintana. And then another stack I like is the Yankees. So the Yankees game got postponed on Monday about 30 minutes before lock. Hopefully you guys were able to catch that. So Jason Vargas, who I wanted to stack against on Monday, did not get to pitch. It looks like he's going to be pitching here in the night game. I think the Yankees and Mets are going to do a doubleheader today. Pretty sure Tanaka and Wheeler are going to pitch against each other in the early game, and then Paxton and Vargas are pitching in the night game. Right now, the run total for the Yankees, I believe, was with Zach Wheeler expected to pitch. So I imagine this 4.9 implied run total for the Yankees is going to start to rise now that we know that Vargas is pitching. Some of these Yankees prices are really intriguing. Like Gleyber Torres stands out at 4,100 on DraftKings. I really like him as a value shortstop. He is dirt cheap for the upside that he has in this matchup versus Jason Vargas. So pretty much the same thing can be said as what I said Monday. Just really like stacking the Yankees here, especially because they're so cheap again. Like LeMahieu's 4,700. A lot of these guys saw price decreases. Like Gary Sanchez was 5,100 on Monday. Now he's down to 4,900. It's the same matchup they were going to have Monday. I really have just as much interest as I did on Monday's slate. I know it's a bigger slate, so there's more teams to choose from, but I still expect the Yankees to be one of my highest owned stacks, assuming that Vargas is pitching here. Love these guys. I think they're all way underpriced for this matchup with Vargas. Gleyber Torres is a guy that I really like at 4,100. Torres mashes lefties, hits lefties very well. Also, like a lot of these other guys hit lefties well, like LeMahieu, Luke Voit, Gary Sanchez, even Didi in Yankee Stadium versus a lefty. I don't mind at 3,900, but obviously I do prefer Torres for just 200 more. Vargas gives up a lot of hard contact to righties just throughout his career. Has always struggled throughout his career with right-handed hitters. And I know lately he's been pitching better, but that's not something I really buy into. This is just such a tough spot for him facing this Yankees team in Yankee Stadium. So I'm going to be going right back to the Yankees today. Then another guy I'm going to be going back to, assuming he's in the lineup, is Carlos Gonzalez. He's still dirt cheap on DraftKings at 3,600. He's also dirt cheap on Yahoo. I do like to play him on Yahoo, where he's just $9, only $2 off the minimum. I think he's a great value play over there. So right now, Fantasy Labs does have him in the projected lineup. He is projected to bat fifth for the Cubs here versus Peter Lambert. Peter Lambert actually pitched very well in his debut. In his last start against the Cubs, he made his debut against the Cubs in Wrigley Field about a week ago and went 7 innings, only allowed 4 hits, 1 run, got 9 strikeouts, had 32 DraftKings points against the Cubs when he faced them in his last start. Now he has to pitch at home in Coors, which is obviously a terrible spot, very hitter-friendly park. I expect this Cubs team to get to Lambert here. I don't think Lambert's a gas can by any means, but he's definitely not a guy that I'm afraid to pick on, especially with these Cubs bats in Coors Field. You can kind of see it in the run total. Not getting much respect from Vegas here. 6.3 implied run total for the Cubs. Really like this stack. I'm going to be going right back to them. And I'm going to be going right back to Cargo at his dirt cheap price of just $3,600. The guy's not the best hitter at this point in his career, but still has a decent amount of power. And in Coors Field, we could definitely see him hit one out. So I think he makes a lot of sense as a value play on both sides. And then to fill out my 5 on Yahoo, you can go to Gleyber Torres if you want. He's at shortstop and he's $19. But I actually like going to Mookie Betts on Yahoo. Mookie Betts is only $17 in the outfield. I think he makes a lot of sense as a cheap outfield play. And I think the Red Sox are a team that I'm actually going to be stacking up quite a bit on today's slate. I really like their prices on both sides. DraftKings, they're relatively cheap. Like Mookie, JD are both under 5K. Benintendi is $4,700. You got value towards the bottom of the lineup with Brock Holt at $3,700. Jackie Bradley at $3,400. But really, Mookie, JD, and Benintendi all under 5K stand out a ton. Ariel Jurado is, I know, a guy that's been pitching a lot better lately and has been able to have success even pitching in Texas, but I still don't think this is that good of a pitcher. This is definitely a guy we can pick on, especially with these good hitters that the Red Sox have. These guys can all hit righties well. Mookie and JD both have a ton of power versus righties. And Jurado has actually been a pitcher that's struggled more to righties than lefties, so I think this is a great spot for the Red Sox. I think this is a really good spot for Mookie Betts. I like him on both sides, especially on Yahoo where he's just $17. But these are my 5 plays for Yahoo and DraftKings today, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about some stacks now. We'll look at BVP as well before we end the video. So my favorite stack today, when you factor in their prices, is these Yankees bats. I'm going to be going right back to them on DraftKings versus Jason Vargas. Assuming Vargas is pitching the night game, which it looks like he is, I really like the Yankees again. I expect their 4.9 implied run total is definitely going to start rising. But some other stacks we can go to, I do like the Red Sox versus Ariel Jurado. I think that's a stack you could look to. Maybe some Braves bats versus Chris Archer. I know Chris Archer pitched really well against the Braves in his last start, but Archer still, we know, is prone to getting blown up. This is a guy that does struggle with walks, struggles with home runs. 5.5 implied run total for the Braves. You can definitely look there. These Twins bats versus Mike Leake, I think makes some sense. 5.9 implied run total for the Twins versus Leake. 5.7 implied run total for the Nationals versus Manny Banuelos. There's a lot of high totals on today's slate. And then obviously you got the Coors game, 6.3 implied run total for the Cubs, 5.8 for the Rockies. You're definitely going to want to get some exposure to this game, especially some of those Rockies right-handed hitters. But that's kind of where I'm looking to for stacks today, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about some BVP now before we end the video. So we got about 6 or 7 BVP plays. I'll cover these real quickly. So Trevor Bauer has struggled with Joey Votto. Joey Votto has gone 3 for 12 with a home run off Trevor Bauer. Yonder Alonso 4 for 10 off of Patrick Corbin. Marwin Gonzalez 8 for 14 with a home run off Mike Leake. Tim Beckham 5 for 12 off Martin Perez. Kyle Seager 17 for 52 with 4 home runs off of Martin Perez. He's really hit him well. Nico Goodrum 5 for 15 off Jacob Junis. Jacoby Jones 3 for 11 with a home run off of Junis, and Mark Reynolds 5 for 20 with a home run off of Jose Quintana. So those are all the BVP plays that I got for today, guys. I think that is it for the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like down below. I would really appreciate it. And make sure you subscribe if you have not already. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Or like always, you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT if you do have any questions. Feel free to message me on Twitter. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Good luck tonight. Peace.